Hey everyone, Will K here. I wanted to show you where I'm at with ScopeOut, which is my AI powered project planning and scoping tool that I created. And very excited to show you where I'm at with it. I've basically got all of the functionality how I would like it. Um, and I'm going to be working on the back end next, but figured I'd show you guys basically the all the way through. So I'll click start building and I will enter a project description. I'm going to say create an cool. This is one I already had. Just simple prompt. Now you can continue as it is, or if you want to say, let me just help uh, flesh out the description a little bit. And we're using Gemini API right here. We're actually using 2.5 for this improved description, but we're actually going to be using 1.5 for the next bit of functionality, and I'll go into a little depth why. Great. So we have, a nice little description. We can edit it from there. And when we're ready, we can click generate scope. Now, the idea of this app is what is the least amount of, thinking through I can do initially to get the project, bring the thinking from 0 to 1, help me see the big picture. And then from there, I go and edit, the scope of the project how I want it. So first thing it does is generate the main primary focus areas, and underneath that the categories. So we have focus area 1, game design and narrative, crafting the core gameplay loop and storyline. Okay, cool. And that consists of categories: level design and structure, story and narrative development, gameplay mechanics design, character development, relationships, world building, lore, dialogue and cutscene design. Nice. And we see art and visuals, uh, sound and music, programming and engineering. Very cool. So we'll click approve and we'll start scoping it out. So we can see 0 requirements first, and now it's generating them 4 at a time in this case, because this project, the AI has decided we are going to create, the 8 focus areas, each having 6 categories, each category having 5 components, and each component having 4 requirements. Now, the AI will sort of imagine how complicated of a project it is and will calculate the number of components and requirements that it thinks that we need to start out with. So that does change a little bit from project to project. So we see in game design narrative focus area, we have level design and structure category, which one of the components is level blueprint. So a structured plan for each level, nice outline key areas, enemy placement, puzzle elements, narrative triggers. Very cool. And the requirements, it's starting out with our level 1 blueprint visual representation. So let's, get a visual to this blueprint. The gameplay flow. Okay, so cool. It's coming up with the requirements, and ideally we start here and we figure out what we're missing instead of starting from the ground up. Now, as these requirements are being generated, we're able to filter them as we'd like. Only one focus area for now, but let's say we're filtering by this. Was that a category? And we can filter the list that way. It's multi filter. We can add another filter. Boom. So none for that yet. Still generating. And we can see that the project is 14% complete. So of course you can take your idea and you can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and say, come up with a list of requirements, come up with, um, focus areas, blah, blah. But it's going to be limited. And you'll notice that the AI models nowadays, they're trying to give you the least amount of bang for your buck, really. Least amount of content per answer. And so app is programmatically thinking through the structure of the project, and it's going to give you, it's at the end of it, it's going to give you between 700 and around 2,000 requirements. And basically a lot of bang for your buck. Really a great place to start thinking through all of the components. And you can see the focus areas, yeah, go all the way down to project management, marketing, and release. A lot of us creators don't think about the marketing plan, or we think about it too late in the game. So very cool. You know, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, so you're gonna get a lot. So this does take a few minutes. So you can see we're already, we're a quarter of the way through generating all the requirements. And yeah, so briefly I'll just go into maybe what we're gonna see next. Once all requirements have been generated, we are going to see project plan, a finalized project plan get generated, which is a document, and you can actually export that as Markdown or PDF, which you'll see. So we'll give you a project plan, and then I have an agent. So once all requirements have been generated and the project plan's been generated, all of that content will be fed in. It will build an agent knowledge base, and you can chat with the agent about the project. In the future, you'll be able to take actions like change requirements and talk to the agent and modify things. But that we just have a framework for that generated, and you can export a CSV of all the requirements. Let's see. And just real quick, this is a point I touched on in one of my posts. So this intense requirement generation process, we are using Gemini 1.5, and that is a cheaper model from Google. And it turns out when you're doing these discrete elements, so like we're generating 4 requirements at a time. Actually, a lot of places I can go with this. Skip this if you're just interested in the functionality of this app, but if you're trying to build AI apps, that sort of thing, this is interesting. So instead of generating one requirement at a time, which would be really slow, we and obviously it's still takes a while. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's generating the focus area and category beforehand, as we saw in the previous step. Now it's generating each component with 4 requirements at a time. So it's saying, here's the focus area, here's the category. Now generate basically a couple trees or a couple branches. This component with all requirements, this component all requirements, this component all requirements, this component all requirements, and all one big JSON payload, and then basically one API call. And then that payload comes to the app, and the app parses out the records. So I totally recommend, instead of doing a million AI API calls, do one with the amount of context that you need. Give it the AI the most basic instructions, which is like create 4 requirements, create 1 requirement, blah, 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 based on this context, this tree, and then bring back the entire JSON payload and then the app parse it out. That's going to make it your app 10, 100 times faster and more efficient use of AI and cheaper. Because not only do these AI companies charge by the token, they also charge by the request. So you want to batch your requests as much as possible. That's a whole other topic, probably goes past my knowledge of architectural engineering, that type of stuff, but great to think about. So let's see, we are halfway mark. Let's see. Just while we're loading again, you want to use the cheapest AI model that gives you the most reliable answer. And so therefore you will get a lot of mileage by making the requirements um, that you're looking for your AI to answer as small as possible, with as much context as possible. And therefore, since I'm doing the majority of the AI processing using a really cheap model, probably an hour of seriously testing this app to the limits is probably gonna, generating tons and tons of projects. I might use 30 cents of API tokens. So yeah, you want to use the big models sparingly, or you're going to, you know, there the token bill at the end of the month is going to hurt. But if you can get away with these small models, using them smartly, that's not a word, using them intelligently, you'll be able to get a lot of mileage out of your tokens. What else can I talk about? So many other things. Again, in my post, I recommend it build the front end first. There's so much. This app, even though it's only taken me 2 weeks to build the front end, it was after many iterations uh, of what I thought a project management or requirement scoping tool would look like and how it would work. And I only could tell that the previous iterations were like too far gone, too far broken after building them out to a certain extent and seeing how I would use them. So this goes back to the famous Facebook tagline, move fast and break things, and iterate is what they really mean by that. And you're going to slow down if you're trying to build all the back end to support your front end at first. You want to prototype the front end. You want to get to a place where it makes sense and works. And then you want to refactor the code so it's really efficient. And then once you're totally satisfied, or at least enough, and that's a whole another conversation about being totally satisfied with what you make, define what totally satisfied is, what version 1 totally satisfied is, be okay with that, and get it to there, and then build the backend to support it. This might not be traditional software engineering advice, but this is my advice in the year 2025, what works for me. Feel free to ignore, use what helps. So again, we are still loading. And as you can see, we've generated over 1,000 items, over 772 requirements, each nicely organized. Again, we can export it as a CSV, we can filter it, and the export will observe the filtering. And yeah. I guess I'll mention in the future, we mentioned that we will be moving towards an AI agent interface in the future where, less button clicking and more speaking with an agent who's helping you think through and plan out. So I want to make a child component of requirement be updates. So every time you speak with the agent, it will analyze what requirements. So now that everything's been built top down, all the way down to requirements at the bottom, now we are going to be interacting with the app by creating update records on the requirement. Once you update the requirement, like do an update, like either manual update or you spoke with the agent and the agent realized that you wanted to change this requirement, it will send an update to the requirement, which will update the requirement definition, which will change maybe the summary of the component, the category, and the focus area. So the changes will roll up that way, and the project will be built and totally dynamic. And the cool thing is, you want to be just discussing with the agent, and the agent will make the required updates throughout the project plan. You don't have to worry about. So therefore, we can keep track of a project with over 1,000, 2,000 requirements. It's really no big deal because we're just talking with an agent. The agent is worrying about updating the necessary requirements and also, finding and retrieving the necessary requirements as these topics of conversation pop up. We're not really thinking about how are we going to find that requirement? Are these too many requirements? Because we're just talking to an agent. Agent will let us know what we need to know about what we need to know and direct us to where we can find it. That's sort of the idea here. So now we have um, so it gave us a little toast message that it failed, but everything appears to be working properly. So just a little toast message bug right there. So now we see all 960 requirements in this case were generated. We can export those. And because of that, now a project plan, nicely formatted project plan, was generated. So how do we, attack this project and all the requirements? So brought it down into phases. Phase one, foundation planning; phase two, core development; integration testing; deployment and launch; all of that sort of thing. Marketing and requirements consolidation by phase. So yeah, so in the future you'll be able to edit this with your agent. You don't have to worry about typing too much. We just talk. And you can think of, once we get that working, we can just have the agent. Forgive if you can hear the plane overhead. You can just speak with the agent, and the agent will update your project plan um, automatically. So let's take a look at this agent. So hopefully you can hear the audio from it. But anyways, just simple chat interface. Um, Tell me about the project phases. So I haven't really done a ton of development on this agent so far, and one thing is I want to optimize it to be a little faster and a little better, that sort of thing. But this is where we're at right now. I have complete knowledge of your project. Create an action item. Very good. The project is 4 phases, and of course, we want to render this markdown a little bit better. Phase one, foundation planning; core development. Yep. So everything that we talked about there. Let's see. What should we? What should we be considering for character modeling and animation? Optimize polygon counts. Very cool. Yep, so got it from the character base mesh resolution. In the future, I'm going to ragify this. Connect this to, I need to set up my backend first and then set up that RAG database, so that it will cite sources. So it will cite this requirement and it will take you right there. Additional things I want to add are, the chatbot not waiting for you to prompt it. It should, suggest things, or it should ask you questions. Have you been thinking about this? We haven't received an update on this. Really, an actual agent, somebody helping you with the project planning. Let me turn this sound on. I don't know if you can hear it. So this is going
For
to
character modeling and animation, consider optimized polygon counts, under 10,000, for performance, robust rigs handling diverse animations, realistic facial rigging for expressions, high-quality textures, 40966 pixels for key characters, fluid movement and combat animations, consistent art style adherence.
amazing. And so now I'm going to ask with my voice, I'm going to say, what visual effects should we be focusing on and make sure we include in the project? Nice. Beautiful. Hmm. Gemini API is overloaded. No way. Everybody's having fun with Gemini API today, I guess. Hmm.
Hello? Hello. I'm your AI project assistant. I have complete knowledge of your project.
Amazing. So cool. We got rate limited for a second, apparently. I guess probably because we did, 2,000 requirements. But very cool. And let me just try this one more time. What visual effects should we be focusing on when we what visual effects should we be focusing on when we design our game? Beautiful. Yes, you can see that we're getting rate limited, so I need to check my API key, but did see that it worked, and let's let's ask it one more time. Something else. So something specific. What are the main requirements for resource allocation? Yep. So popping in from there. So I hope this let you know how gave some insight about how we are building Scope Out and what we have next. Of course, our work is never done here, and I'm looking forward to setting up the back end, setting up database, setting up the RAG, setting up the API secret keys, uh, database, all that fun stuff. Stripe, and excited to bring you guys along in the journey. And yeah, let me know if there's a feature you'd like to see or what you guys think. Thanks so much. Bye bye.